What should be happening in the Biden administration right now that isn't going on?
Yeah, there are two main things that they should be doing in the days that they have left. The first is to get testing out there. I feel like we should have learned our lesson from COVID that just because we aren't testing, it doesn't mean that the virus isn't there. It just means that we aren't looking for it. We should be having rapid tests, home tests available to all farm workers, to their families, for the clinicians taking care of them so that we aren't waiting for public labs and CDC labs to tell us what's bird flu or not. And the second very important thing is this is not like the beginning of COVID where we were dealing with a new virus, we didn't have a vaccine. There actually is a vaccine developed already against H5N1. The Biden administration has contracted with manufacturers to make almost 5 million doses of the vaccine. However, they have not asked the FDA to authorize the vaccine. There's research done on it. They could get this authorized now and also get the vaccine out and to farm workers and to vulnerable people. I think that's the right approach because we don't know what the Trump administration is going to be doing around bird flu. If they have people coming in with anti-vaccine stances, could they hold up vaccine authorization? If they don't want to know how much bird flu is out there, could they withhold testing? I mean, that's a possibility. And I think the Biden administration in the remaining days should get testing and vaccines widely available so that at least it empowers state and local health officials and clinicians to do the right thing for their patients.
Well, gang, as much as we try to keep this channel optimistic and hopeful for the new golden age before us, I hate to break it to you, Walls, I'm sure most of you guessed, but the globalists are up to globalist schemes yet again. Now they're sounding the alarm, as you heard, about a bird flu epidemic. Yes, just in time for the inauguration. We're hearing rumblings of yet, if you could believe it, yet another shutdown. Now, I know a lot of you may be thinking that we've got better leaders this time, and that is true. But like we say on this channel a lot, there's a tremendous amount of work to do for the incoming MAGA administration. And it does seem that the Biden administration is hell-bent on going scorched earth in the waning days of their power. And let me show you exactly where the hooks are. Look at this table here. This table outlines just how much money some very big names in government have received from big pharma companies over the years. Now, don't think that the $5 million mentioned in the opening clip is just clean money without strings attached. So what can courageous patriots do? How can we rise up against the antics of such a corrupt political class? Well, joining me today is Peter Gillooly, CEO of my absolutely favorite nonconformist brand, The Wellness Company, who, by the way, have been fighting back against the elite medical establishment since their very inception. And gang, don't forget, if you click the link in the description below or scan the QR code, you can get their Contagion Kit plus free shipping right now if you use promo code Turley. So, Peter, great to see you, my friend. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me on, Dr. Steve.
It's an honor having you. So, I mean, we were kind of chatting a little bit before the interview. What do you think is actually going on with this bird flu, I guess, semi-hysteria that's happening? We know Biden previously he gave Moderna $176 million for a bird flu vaccine to be developed back in July. Then I saw someone post about a bird flu summit that took place in DC and just a couple of months back in early October. So, I mean, forgive me for being cynical here, but this all seems rather orchestrated. What's your medical team saying in all of this?
Well, I think it's important to kind of put the narrative in context, Dr. Steve. And I think the full story, many people find quite shocking. So bird flu has been researched far earlier than COVID, H5N1 specifically, and that happened at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, as well as in USDA research facilities in Athens, Georgia, funded by the USDA and, guess who, the Chinese Academy of Sciences. This is all very well documented in the public sphere. Then fast forward here to January of last year, all the globalists had their little powwow in Davos, and there was a DiseaseX forum sponsored by the pharmaceutical companies where they talked about the hypothetical but probable scenario that a zootropic or an animal-borne illness like bird flu would emerge as a serious threat to the public health in the near future. Fast forward another 6 months, as you mentioned, the Biden administration finds it fitting to give hundreds of millions of taxpayer money to, guess who? Moderna and Pfizer and the usual suspects to develop an mRNA vaccine, in which, by the way, they also funded 5 million shots of ordinary H5N1 flu vaccines, which are already in inventory in the U.S. So that's sitting there ready to go at a moment's notice here. And then we have a bird flu summit in October. All the while, though, and this is an important fact, we've been culling our livestock. And this is another story that's kind of in parallel to bird flu that people aren't talking about. But this year, we've culled millions of chickens. And over the past 5 years, we've culled, I think, over 80 million chickens.
Yeah.
And just in time for a Trump election here, I think we're going to see a lot more stories about how much the price of your plate of breakfast has gone up.
Wow.
Because we've been killing all our livestock. And the saddest part about that story, or that angle of the story, Dr. Steve, is that the way that the USDA has architected these programs is that if you have livestock that are testing positive for bird flu, they will pay the farms per head of culled livestock. So if the livestock dies of bird flu, they don't get paid anything. So there's the farmers thinking there, I might lose 25% of my flock, or I can just kill everyone and get paid out by the USDA. What option do you think they're going to take? They're going to take the taxpayer
They're
dollars.
incentivized. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So here we are in January, and we saw Dr. Birx back on TV, back on CNN, advocating for the Biden administration to release those 5 million H5N1 shots to the public. We've seen very sporadic infections by humans of bird flu. We had one elderly gentleman in Louisiana die who had multiple comorbidities. I'm not trying to say that bird flu isn't a problem. It's a flu. Certainly people will get sick, just like people got sick from swine flu and COVID and every other disease we've experienced over the last 20 years, Dr. Steve. But panic is not the correct response.
Right. I love that. I love the way you contextualize that. That was brilliant. You're on the front. Obviously, you're on the front lines of this. And your advice is clear and cogent. But should we be concerned because we're not ruled by the most clear and cogent class, shall we say? I mean, we're hearing a lot, of the hysteria on social media about, the possibility of releasing some kind of contagion before inauguration, gain of function derived bioweapons, I've heard. I mean, what's your take again? How concerned should we be of all this?
So I'm going to take an angle that maybe, you and the listeners don't expect. So first of all, on the bioweapon, I can't say with absolute certainty yes or no that this is a gain of function engineered virus. However, the research has been published that these two centers that I referenced a few moments ago have been performing gain of function research. And as we know, it's very hard to contain viruses in a lab for an extended period of time. So is there a probability or a chance that this virus that is now circulating widely around the world is one that's been modified via gain of function? Yes, absolutely. Right? We can't deny that possibility.
Certainly can't rule it out, right?
So the question then becomes, okay, how afraid should we be, right? According to CNN and Dr. Birx and others, we should be terrified, right? Lockdowns, masks, social distancing, the whole 9 yards, right? But I think if we look at the greater message from COVID, back in 2021 or 2022, I'm sure someone can fact check me online, at the WEF, they were talking about COVID, and they framed it not as the most tragic or the most deadly or the most alarming event, but the most profitable event in human history. And at the end of the day, Dr. Steve, that's kind of what this is about, right? So there are different ways that they can use these manufactured emergencies and emergency measures to line the pockets of their allies, whether it's from manipulating public opinion via, the prices in the grocery store, whether it's restricting critical life-saving medications like happened during COVID, right? COVID was not a big deal. It became a big deal when we enforced all of these public health measures that might have been counterproductive, and then added on top of that layers of not being able to access the effective and safe medications, and we're turning people away from the hospitals and saying, you know what, come back when you need to be put on a ventilator. So
Right.
we were essentially incentivizing the pharmaceutical companies to develop things like Paxlovid and these vaccines, where the real solutions were right in front of us. But if we acknowledge that the real solutions worked, the safe and effective ones that we all should have access to, if we acknowledge that those things were safe and effective, there would be no legal justification for Operation Warp Speed and all these other programs that the federal government and, frankly, the global governments around the world enforced during COVID, which made, Moderna, Pfizer, and, God knows how many insurance company billions and billions of dollars.
Very, very rich. Yeah, yeah. Profits off of profits before patients, as I've heard it put. I mean, that does raise the questions. What can we do to prepare? I've talked about the wellness companies, a variety of incredible emergency medical kits over the last several months. And I think this is just it's something that, in the end, if we are ruled, at least for the time being, by those who do put profits over people, over patients, as it were, how can we empower ourselves to be able to maintain liberty and freedom in the midst of that very unfortunate situation we're in?
Yeah, Dr. Steve, we've thought about this a lot at the Wellness Company. At the end of the day, like as I voted for Trump. This the third time I've done it, right? But at the end of the
Yeah,
day,
right,
I don't
right,
expect the federal government to come and save me. It doesn't
right,
matter
right,
who
right.
is in the White House, right? My health is my own personal responsibility. My family's health is my own personal responsibility. And I think that's the attitude that we as patriots need to take at the end of the day, that we are responsible for our own decisions and our own lives. That's where the Wellness Company comes in. We try to give people a wide variety of solutions to empower them to take their health into their own hands. So you
Right.
talked about the medical emergency kits. We have a contagion kit, which is specifically geared towards respiratory viruses. It has things like hydroxychloroquine, the hero of COVID, Tamiflu. It has a budesonide and nebulizer in there, so you can actually breathe it in. Z-Pak, ivermectin. It has the whole 9 yards is there for respiratory viruses. And you compare having that on hand with, the possibility of having to go to an urgent care and emergency room, especially in a pandemic situation where services might not be available. It's scary. And moreover, I think you as a doctor can appreciate this. We need to practice preventative care. And if you do get sick, the best time to treat illness is immediately. Early intervention is key to staying healthy. Most people nowadays, you get sick and say, I'm just going to go lie in bed for a few days. That's the worst thing you want to do, right? That's how the disease lingers, it festers, and it spreads. You want to be hitting it immediately as soon as you're experiencing symptoms. And having one of these medical emergency kits in your home allows you to have the tools on hand so you can attack it day one. You don't have to go wait and schedule a call with the doctor. And I think a combination of readiness as well as preventative care, supplementation, sleep, exercise, the usual lifestyle things that keep you healthy and well, those two things combined together, those are going to last, the test of time here.
Yeah, I mean, I've often taught. And full disclosure, I'm a PhD. I'm a worthless doctor. I'm not a useful one like you are, right? I'm the doctor. Somebody falls down in a crowded place, I can't help them. That's the funny part of it. Right? I think they call PhDs piled higher and deeper. I know, but just being, full disclosure there, but it's so interesting the way you're describing it, because we've talked often on this channel about, again, we're like the first generation that doesn't prepare. We don't prep. Our grandparents had, they had closets full of canned goods and so forth. I mean, they were the depression generation. They just prepping was just part. It was an insurance policy. And for the basic, what's it, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's just about, you need your food, you need your water, you need your air. And we prep food. And to the extent that we do prep, we prep food, we prep water, but a lot of us don't prep meds. And that seems to me insane if you think about it, because it seems that meds are just as valuable in certain circumstances as food and water would be.
Yeah, I think somewhere along the way, maybe it was in the 90s when we were kind of settling into the golden age of American prosperity, prepping
Right.
kind of fell out of vogue. And
Right.
that is a potential risk factor for many families. I mean, we say all the time, food, ammo, gold, water,
Yep.
medications. These are all things that you should have a
Exactly.
stockpile
Yeah.
of, right?
Yeah.
Because you
Yeah.
don't know what's happening. And I'm not trying to
Right.
catastrophize, but you know, how many Americans are affected by natural disasters even every single year? Look at, the
We're seeing
hurricanes
it
that hit
or in
the southeast
California right
coast,
now. Yeah.
the
Yeah.
fires in California, right?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't have to be a global pandemic that could cause you to dip into your stockpiles, but you're
Yeah.
probably going to use it. It's not really if, it's when, and you'll be
Right.
happy when you have it.
Yeah. Oh, that's for sure. Again, that's the beauty of insurance. It gives you that sense of assuaging of fear. So you mentioned the contagion kit, which is so cool. I love it. I've got one, and it's the best choice for something like a bird flu type scenario. How can our listeners get one? Because these are so cool.
Yeah, you can follow the link below. You can go to the website, you quickly check out, you can order the contagion kit. After you finish checkout, you'll see a little pop up. You'll fill out a 2-minute intake questionnaire, kind of like you were to go to a doctor's office, but a little quicker. You submit that, it goes off to our medical team. We have a 50-state telemedicine practice that reviews each one of them and writes you a script. This isn't ordering, questionable medications off the internet. We have a legitimate pharmacy that
Right.
dispenses each one of these medications. It's real. If you need a refill or replenishment because you had to use them, we offer that service as well.
Yeah, I mean, I've interviewed a number of your colleagues, your faculty, and so you've got board members from Yale Medical School and the like. I grew up outside of New Haven, so that was cool. So I mean, yeah, you guys are so legit. I love telehealth. To me, telehealth in many ways is like it's kind of like the way the internet news ecos or what a telesphere is bypassing the old legacy media, kind of like the way email and texting bypass the post office. I think just telehealth is really doing the same thing. I mean, definitely you want to have your local doctor and all that, just like we still use the post office. But I mean, the resources we have literally at our fingertips for our health right now are astonishing. I mean, we've never been in a time like this, and you guys
It
are on the front lines of that.
it really is, and prior to starting the wellness company, I kind of was watching the healthcare space from afar and kind of wondering, okay, when's it going to get fixed, right? And I mean, it was a core platform even of Obama, right? Obamacare, right?
Right.
We're going to fix healthcare. Didn't do a thing to help the situation, right? Actually made it more expensive. So
Made it
now
more
here
worse. Yeah.
it got to the point where I was like, okay, instead of fixing this, let's forget about fixing it. Let's just build a new one, right? How
Build a
hard
new
can it
one.
be?
Exactly.
So, and I think that's kind of what the future holds here. It's going to be companies like TWC that are going to kind of pave the way as an alternative path to receiving healthcare and health
Yes.
services. And I think honestly, taking a more holistic look at it is the future. And that's maybe a silver lining from COVID is that people woke up and said, the allopathic medicine has a very valid root, but there's all these other forms of medicine, naturopathic and lifestyle medicines that we can take and participate in every day that are going to pay dividends. But you might not hear about that from your old doctor.
Right. Exactly. It's all part of techno-populism, as they call it. So it's wonderful stuff. Yeah, this is so important to maintaining freedom and liberty. You got your food prep, you got your water prep, but do you have your meds prepped? Well, that's now just a click away. Click the link in the description below. You could use the QR code on the screen. Use code Turley. Plus, you're going to get free shipping right now if you order right now. So don't wait. Responsible preparedness does not wait. Click on that link below right now and protect yourself and your loved ones. Peter, thank you so much for being with us. Let's have you back real soon.
Appreciate it, Steve.
Thank you.